Live from the 607, it's the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking everything going on in the world of sports. Join in the conversation on social media with the hashtag ODPH, because here we go.
Instead of looking deep inside, every word I have to say, keep it simple.
Welcome to an all-new edition of the ODPH podcast. What is happening, everybody? Thank you so much for joining us this week. My name is Ken M. Joining me in studio, as always, you know him. He's the co-host. He's a statistician to the stars. His name is Padawan J.
Oh, let me talk to you.
And boy, we have a lot to talk about in the land of sports.
Yeah, we do.
There was a big game that went down this past week.
Yeah, Luka debuted with the Lakers.
And we have to deep dive into that and so much more. And we want to keep those conversations going after the show. So, Pat, where does everybody roll to?
ODPHpodcast.com.
Right on. Swing on over to the website. Check out all the social media links. Just sign up, subscribe, do what you have to keep those conversations rolling, because we do talk a lot of parlay of topics.
Mm-hmm.
Also, check out the TeePublic store link, the blog section, which always has reviews dropping left and right, the classifieds, which has friends of the show such as 3FM Podcast, Dragon Master Games, Nerd Initiative, and many more. The directory, Pat, how many providers are we on?
We are on 678,352.
Statisticians and stars for the reason. Who's your source?
Trust me, bro.
Exactly. So, wherever you listen to us in the world, first and foremost, thank you for checking us out. Leave us a review on your favorite podcatcher. It definitely helps the algorithm. Last but certainly not least, we have a fantastic music section where you can check out such great musicians as Brian Wolf and the Howlers, Second Suitor, Tom Jolu, Floodland, Shout of the Robots. Basically, if it's anything and everything that is the ODPH, you can find it at ODPHpodcast.com. And always remember, if you're using hashtags, why not use the hashtag ODPHpod? Kicking off the sports edition of the show this week, we did say there was a big game that went down this past week.
We did.
And we have to recap what it was. The NFL season is officially wrapped up for the 2024-2025 season. So we are breaking down Super Bowl 59.
Mm-hmm.
So, Pat, kick us off.
Yeah, so this game obviously took place this past Sunday from the Superdome down in New Orleans, Louisiana, and it reported attendance of 65,719. Saw the one stat, the highest rated Super Bowl in terms of viewers in NFL history.
Really?
I'll look up the number here in a minute. I did see that the Fox PR did put out the number, and it was a ridiculous statistic. So I'll pull that up in a minute. But yeah, it went down between the 127.7 million viewers.
Okay.
So yeah, largest one, and it was also made free to watch on Fox's streaming platform, Tubi, which is free, by the way. But yeah, it went down between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs. Kansas City going for the three-peat. Philly going for the upset and playing spoiler, denying the three-peat, which has not been done in pro sports here in North America since the Lakers in the early 2000s, since the Yankees in the late 90s. Football never happened in the Super Bowl era.
Mm-hmm.
Hockey, probably not in some time. Maybe the Red Wings did it once upon a time. Wouldn't surprise me. But yeah, hasn't been done in the Super Bowl era in the NFL. Kansas City went for it and swing and a miss. Swing and a miss big time, because the Philadelphia Eagles beat the Kansas City Chiefs 40-22. Jalen Hurts 17-22, 221 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Patrick Mahomes 21-32, 257 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Patrick Mahomes was Kansas City's leading rusher, 4 carries, 25 yards, no touchdowns. Jalen Hurts was Philadelphia's leading rusher with 11 carries, 72 yards, and 1 touchdown. Devontae Smith was the leading receiver for Philly with 4 catches, 69 yards, and 1 touchdown. Meanwhile, it was Xavier Worthy for Kansas City with 8 catches, 157 yards receiving, and 2 touchdowns.
We also can't forget the halftime show where Kendrick Lamar 1, Drake 0.
Yeah, well, Kendrick Lamar like 1 million, Drake 0.
Yes, it was a spectacle to go on, to say the least.
Yep.
So we have to really break this down as a tale of two teams.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to start with Kansas City for my breakdown.
Okay.
So came in with the dynasty talk,
Yep.
the three-peat nonsense.
Worked out a deal with Pat Riley, who owns the trademark for merchandise for three-peat, so that they could print merchandise that said three-peat.
Yeah, they were poised and ready to go. And obviously had a very controversial run in the playoffs to get there.
Yep.
You can listen to past episodes, hear what our takes are about that.
Or any sports media outside of Kansas City.
Right, because obviously we've rehashed that enough.
Yep.
So we did know that there was going to be a lot of scrutiny on the referees for this game. And when they kicked off, Philadelphia punched Mahomes in the mouth. Repeatedly.
Yeah.
Their pressure broke Mahomes. And for somebody that was talked in the same breath as Tom Brady as the GOAT, that has been officially been disregarded.
Yep.
We can't have that conversation, not for a very long time, because what we saw here was not a GOAT performance. Had this been closer,
sure,
and granted, it's a tale of two halves if you really want to get down to it.
It's a tale of 3/4 to 1.
Right. There's a lot of garbage points and garbage stats that went down in that fourth quarter because Philly had this game wrapped up.
Oh, yeah.
So we have to keep that into context when we talk about the performance here, but Mahomes could not get anything going whatsoever.
Nope.
And a lot of those Xavier Worthy yards were second half.
I'm pretty sure they were all second half.
Right. So at that point, Philadelphia took their foot off the gas pedal. There was nothing in here that screamed of a GOAT performance.
Philadelphia was celebrating the win with like 3 minutes and change left, which really says a lot about how the game was going. That I think it was AJ Brown and Devontae Smith were the ones dousing head coach Nick Sirianni with the Gatorade. That like they felt confident. I'm like, all right, you know what, we're good. We can douse him. There's still like the 2-minute warning and however many timeouts Kansas City had left. But yeah, no, they're not coming back.
No, there was never a chance they were coming back. And their offense was so one-dimensional.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. If you told me a combined 11 carries for this team, after you want to go back and see how they were very successful in at least establishing a run.
Yeah.
Not saying a dominant one, but they were at least establishing.
Kareem Hunt ain't no slouch.
No, Hunt 3 carries, 9 yards. Pacheco 3 carries, 7 yards.
Yep.
So they could not run the ball whatsoever, and we've said time and time again with their wide receiver core, it is very suspect at best. It's not a great one.
Xavier Worthy has potential. It's way too early to say. You know, he's only just finished his rookie year. You know, you look at those stat line, you go, wow, and if you didn't watch the game, you go, wow, that's a great stat line. But that all came in the second half.
Yeah.
When I think by one of those 2 touchdown points came when Kenny Pickett had been put in the game in place of Jalen Hurts because the game was that far out of reach.
Yeah. It was not anything to write home about. So for Worthy, who had a stat line, and I know a lot of commentating media was mentioned about like, oh, how great of a game changer he is. I'm sorry. He's a speedy receiver. He reminds me a lot of Darius Haywood-Bay.
Yeah.
When he came out of college, that he has great speed if he can get open. Hands are still suspect, in my opinion. But I'm not anointing him as a true number one because if he was a true number one in this game, he would have taken that game over. He did not. And I'm sorry, Mahomes did not do anything here either because his wide receiver core was abysmal at best.
You get past Xavier Worthy, Travis Kelce, 4 for 39, DeAndre Hopkins, 2 for 18, Juju Smith-Schuster, 2 for 16, Hollywood Brown, 2 for 15, Kareem Hunt, 1 for 5, Isaiah Pacheco, 1 for 5, Noah Gray, 1 for 2, and Samaje Perine, 0 for 0, but he was targeted 1 time, which it's interesting. I now see the DeAndre Hopkins stat with as much shit as he was talking after the game. And I'm like, listen, dude, you can be upset and you can be disappointed you lost all you want, but you better have the numbers to back it up.
Well, he subsequently retired.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah, that was announced after the game.
I did not see that.
Yeah, that was announced as we record on Tuesday. That he was retiring. So that said, when your wide receiver core doesn't do much, and they lived way too much on the safety blanket of Travis Kelce. And I am sorry, I'm going to say this, and this might be an unpopular opinion for most. Kelce is going to be retiring, or should be considering that.
He should be, and I think had he won, he would have. But I think given this performance and given some of the discussion that's been going on, in the world and the country over this game and how things went down and how much, like, the universal between some of the sports stuff I consume the reaction has been the Chiefs got their asses beat. Well, they got bent over and spanked. Let's be honest. So I think given the way this went down and given the way he performed, he's going to be at least motivated. Like, you know what? I can't go out like that. I got to do one more in me. Is it going to be a successful year? I don't think so.
Well, here's something I'll have you take a look at.
Okay.
Look at his contract status.
I will pull that up.
Because if I'm not mistaken, he is owed $19 million for next season. And I could definitely see him being a cap casualty.
Let's try reloading the page because it didn't reload right. Give me 2 seconds, folks. We do this live. All right, here we go. 2-year, $34.25 million deal. There is a potential out after this season, which, hey, we're there. Next year, his base salary would be $4.5 million. Restructure proration is a little over 2.5. Roster bonus of 12.5, workout bonus of $250,000, and a cap hit of $19,801,667. Let's pull up the old Chiefs salary cap. Or the Chiefs cap. Patty Mahomes, obviously number one in that category because, hey, he's $66.2 million. Chris Jones, number two, $34.8 million. Wow. Kelsey doesn't even crack the fucking top five. I think he might be five. Yeah, he's number five exactly. Because it's Mahomes, Chris Jones, their right tackle, Jawan Taylor. They're paying fucking $27.3 million a year to Jawan Taylor. Joe Thuney's $26.9, although he was a former Patriot, so I've seen his body work. I can at least understand that. But yeah, Kelsey, $19.8 million cap at. Yikes.
Yeah, so I could definitely see him not returning.
Yeah.
In that sense, I think
they do have a little bit of cap space.
A little bit, but I think they're going to have to make some moves, and I think they have to really take a look at how his performance was this game. Because I think, as weird as this is going to sound, but hear me out, this is going to be a transition period for the Chiefs.
Could be.
I think they have to do a lot of retooling.
Yes.
And I think a lot of it has to come on the defensive side of the ball.
I would say the offensive line, too, because you brought up the quote-unquote pressure. It wasn't even, added additional pressure. It was standard pressure. The Eagles were rushing 4 all night. It was reported by NFL Next Gen Stats and ESPN that the Philadelphia Eagles blitzed 0 times. They only rushed 4 all night, which, as a lot of folks pointed out on some of the pundits and experts, was the same method the Tampa Bay Buccaneers did a couple years ago when Mahomes lost to Tom Brady and them. But he was sacked 6 times with 0 blitzes. You got to work on that offensive line, dude. Holy hell. And then it kind of goes back to what CJ Gardner-Johnson posted on, I think it was the morning after the Super Bowl. He took a tweet of his from after the last time the Chiefs and Eagles played each other. When that game was in Arizona, there was the whole slipping controversy with the grass because it sat out overnight and outside the stadium, and then they rolled it in or whatever else. He tweeted back on July 3rd, 2023. And you can go to his Twitter account, which is at CGJXXIII. Or just search CJ Gardner-Johnson Twitter. He said, quote, "Run that ball back on legit grass. The D-line smashed the O-line. I'm sorry." He quoted that and then posted on February 10th, 2025, 10:08 in the morning, and y'all thought I was tripping.
He wasn't wrong about that.
No, that D-line is... I got the notification from the NFL app that the voting was open for MVP of the Super Bowl, and I knew I was already going to select somebody from Philly because, hey, they're winning. And I was scrolling through, I'm like, is the entire Eagles defense an option? Because they're balling out right now.
Yeah, it's something that we'll have to watch for. Have to make a quick correction here. We are seeing conflicting reports that DeAndre Hopkins is officially retiring. There's been some deleted posts. And,
yeah, stay tuned to your local affiliates for information.
Yeah, so apologies on that. But like I say, there's been news breaking in this digital age, too. A lot of deletions going on. So wait and see. But I will say this. I don't think he's coming back to Kansas City either.
I don't think so. I think he was already on a 1-year deal, so I think that's over.
Yeah, I think for in his case, I think that he's going to be going to a different team, but we'll talk about that next segment. But I think for where we are with the Chiefs now, there's going to be a lot of retooling, and especially the one thing that we have to consider is that AFC is only going to get better.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And I think a lot of the teams that were predicted to get to the playoffs are going to get there and only be better next year. Cincinnati.
Yeah.
And I think that Kansas City is going to have a tough time getting there because in this salary cap era of the NFL, there's such a short window.
Yeah, and I mean, you look back at when the Patriots won 3 in a row. You know, they made a couple runs in the playoffs, but they didn't make it back to. They didn't win another Super Bowl for like another 10 years. So in this day and age with the NFL, you never know.
Yeah, I would say it's not to say it's out of the realm of thought, but but I think unfortunately for the Chiefs, there is that window with that core nucleus, and I think that now cap salaries are going to catch up. Father Time catches up. And I think as long as Mahomes is going to be there, they'll be in playoff contention. Albeit, though, you take a look at their division, there's a lot to weigh out with the Chargers on the up. The Broncos are on the up. The Raiders now with Pete Carroll, they're going to be improving just a matter of when, not if. So the road to get back is going to be tougher. And I think for this team, they're going to have a very long offseason. They're going to have to make some very bold moves, especially with that salary cap, about where their direction goes. But they are also going to have to deal with the victory parade that Philadelphia is going to do. And I think
taking place Friday.
Well, we're going to have to kind of segue to what Jalen Hurts has been saying all the time. He's put the work in. After the beginning of the season, I know a lot of people were writing them off, and yet here they are. Saquon Barkley has now fully ascended into the MVP caliber player that we've all been waiting to see from Penn State.
Set an NFL record for yards in a season between regular season and postseason. I think he broke a record. Terrell Davis, of all people, set.
Yeah, I mean, he just needed an offensive line to get going. Yeah. And I think in this game, what the scariest aspect of Philly is they did not need him to have a monster game.
Yeah, that was the thing. Is I think everybody, including Vegas, you know, those betting, figured Barkley was going to have a monster game. And it became very apparent early on that he really didn't need to.
No, because Hurts ran that offense very well.
Yeah.
They were moving the chains. He was spreading the ball out.
Yeah.
He did the little things that he needed to do, but he kept the defense honest because when they rushed Saquon, who got 25 carries, like let's not forget this.
Yeah.
He got 25 carries. He was still moving the ball forward.
Yep.
And even when Spagnuolo's defense was shutting him down, they were still finding ways to move. And the one thing that I loved about this is Hurts was not afraid to take some chances. And I know he did one, especially in that third quarter.
Yeah.
That he went for a simple play, and he bombed it right down the field to Devontae Smith.
Yep.
So when he is locked in like he was, he's very tough to beat. And I don't think he gets a lot of credit for being that good of a quarterback.
No, he doesn't, because he doesn't necessarily put up the numbers you see like a Patrick Mahomes or a Lamar or even a Josh Allen put up, but he's still very good. I mean, listen, I'm never going to say anything bad about the guy. The man won me my one and only fantasy football championship. You know, I had the tandem of him and A.J. Brown, you know, the one year I won a fantasy football championship, so I will never say bad about either of them. But no, he doesn't get a lot of respect. And when you talk about, you know, the ranking your top 5 or top 3 quarterbacks in the NFL these days, he gets left out of that list a lot just because, you know, yeah, he's got the wins, and yeah, he'd made it to a Super Bowl prior to this. But you look at the career statistics, and they're when you compare him up against, like I said, Lamar, Patrick, even Burrow to a certain extent, I think it's talked about more than Jalen does. But you look at it, it's just not as sexy. You know, he does. It's almost in a similar way to like a Troy Aikman, where Troy Aikman, very good quarterback, but does he get talked about in that upper echelon of quarterbacks from that era? Kind of sometimes, but not often.
Well, the one thing is with this team is he doesn't need to because he's more content with winning.
Yeah.
He doesn't feel the pressure of having to put a team on his back like Mahomes usually does.
Right.
Like, let's be honest about that.
Yeah.
He has a fully loaded team around him, but especially where Philadelphia has been drafting lately and signing free agents and really building that defense up has been the defense.
You mean their production facility down at the University of Georgia?
Yeah, I mean, let's face it, they loaded up on their defense. Jalen Carter has been phenomenal for him.
Yeah.
And Gardner Johnson played out of his mind. Cooper DeJean.
Yeah.
Like, when you have players that are really excelling at the points they need to, and especially the one thing that they did probably better than most, they were not afraid to put some real pressure on Mahomes.
Yeah.
And they were ready to go and do what they needed to because they were going to say more or less like, if we're going to hit him, we're going to hit him hard. And Mahomes took some shots and he did not recover.
No, he didn't. And that was the thing too, is you could tell because you pull up the team stats from this game and you look at specifically time of possession. we always say time of possession tells a lot about a game. Philadelphia, 36 minutes, 58 seconds. Kansas City, 23 minutes, 2 seconds. There was one point, I want to say it was in the second quarter, where the Kansas City defense had gotten a stop on Jalen and gave the ball over to Patrick. And this is the other thing, too. We mentioned the 2 interceptions. There was a fumble from Patrick as well. So he turned the ball over 3 times during this game. And this is the one where they stopped the Kansas City defense stopped Philly. They then turned it. Mahomes then turned it over right back almost immediately. I think it was almost immediately, and the production cut over to a replay of Chris Jones on the sidelines. And this was the point when I knew they're broken. They're not coming back from this. Obviously, I don't want to manifest it and put that energy out in the universe that early because this was still like the first or second quarter. But there was a moment when Chris Jones, the star defensive player, the guy that they lost that game last year in the first week of the season because he was having a contract dispute, and if he'd have been there, they'd have won the game, Mr. High Profile. They cut to a shot of him on the sidelines. He dropped to his knees on the ground off of the bench in agony and just, oh my God, I can't believe this. It wasn't like a Richard Sherman, when Russell Wilson threw the pick and it's like, oh man, like this, like, I can't believe this. He was just, like, oh my God, I can't believe I got to go back out there right now.
Oh yeah.
Because they were gassed.
They were completely worn out. I mean, that's the one thing that Philly's defense did to the touted Kansas City offense.
Yeah.
They wore them out. They broke them.
Yeah.
And when you do that, that only spirals down to your defense. And that is why Kansas City was as gassed as they were.
I mean, you look at Patrick Mahomes' stats in the first half. He was 6 of 14 for 33 yards, 0 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions, one of which was the pick six. Folks, he had a quarterback rating of 1. Mm-hmm. Don't let the stats from the second half fool you because he padded his stats very nicely in the second half there to get himself to 257 and 3 touchdowns and, whatever else. And he finished with a quarterback rating of 11, which is still the second worst quarterback rating in a Super Bowl in NFL history, only behind 2015 Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
Because that was Peyton's last year, the defense, and Carolina couldn't stop Von Miller. Mm-hmm. But Patrick Mahomes played like garbage for most of this game. Yeah, it looked good in the second half, but at that point, Philly knew they had the game won, and they backed off the gas a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then when you do that, I mean, that locked up the championship for him.
Yeah.
I mean, Jalen Hurts got connected finally with his wide receiver core.
Yeah.
We were waiting to see that.
Yeah.
But they had such a balanced attack.
Oh, it was a picture-perfect plan.
Mm-hmm. That now they avenged their loss from 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And the scariest thing about them moving forward is they have cap space.
Yeah, they do.
So they can only get better. I'm not going to use the word dynasty because I don't think that is fair.
Too soon.
I don't think it's fair, but I think you have to really see this team as a contender for years to come.
Oh, absolutely. They're set up beautifully.
Mm-hmm. That barring any injuries or any kind of nonsense, they should be poised to make another deep run again.
Mm-hmm.
And I think after this game, it seemed that the Chiefs didn't really come out screaming that they wanted to get back, that they were ready to go. I think they were too stunned.
Has Kelsey even said anything about this game? Because I know he left. I know he left.
Not
the game,
to my knowledge, anyway.
I know he left the game without saying anything.
Right.
I'm looking at the Eagles free agents players. They've got 17 players as free agents. All of them are unrestricted free agents with the exception of Britton Covey, one of their wide receivers. He's a restricted free agent. And then Ben Van Sumeren, who is an exclusive rights free agent. But the rest of them, including, the likes of Josh Sweat, Brandon Graham, CJ Uzma, just to name a few, are all unrestricted free agents.
Which they'll have some retooling to do. But the one thing that I thought was very poignant of this is Philly was already talking about getting back.
Oh, yeah, of course.
They were not. They were celebrating, but it wasn't so much of a celebration of like we're never going to get back.
If you can keep most of that nucleus around, they could easily do it.
Well, they can definitely do it in the NFC.
You're going to have to retool a couple pieces because let's face it, much like any team, it's darn near impossible to keep unless you're playing Madden. It's impossible to keep that entire team together from year to year. So you're going to have to pick and replace some parts. But if you can keep most of the defense around,
if they keep the defense locked, they'll be fine.
You keep the defense locked up, you'll be fine.
Yeah, but for the NFC East, I mean, between them and Washington, that's going to be the teams to go for right now. I think Dallas
and New York are playing for the bottom.
They're going to have a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
But I think as far as the NFC in general goes, I mean, Philly is poised to be one of those top teams for a while.
Yeah.
And then we'll have to see how it all shapes up next season, because now it is the start of the 2025-2026 season. And there's going to be a lot of storylines to be had here. But final thoughts on the Super Bowl, Pat?
It was funny to see the reactions about this game afterwards, because I know for our viewing party, everyone in the room loved it. You know, and you can kind of split the enjoyment of this game into kind of two segments. There's the folks who enjoyed it and enjoyed, you know, the likes of you and I and Rich, who are none of which are Kansas City fans by any stretch of the imagination. Even my wife Liz was here. She likes Taylor Swift, but she doesn't like the Chiefs. You know, she's kind of over the whole thing. So there was not a single soul in our viewing party. I mean, hell, we even had Eagles fan off the cuff Tom watching with us. That there was not a soul rooting for the Chiefs. So we were happy about the game, and so you had the Eagles fans were happy. You know, the Chiefs haters were happy, and then on the flip side, you got the people who didn't enjoy the game that were, you know, at least 25% Chiefs fans. And then I would say the 25% that were betting through various things, because from what I was hearing with just some of the way the odds were going into the game, was a bad game if you're betting the odds.
Well, I think obviously the Super Bowl, this is nothing to think about. It is a fact. It is one of the biggest betting days of all legal gambling.
There's debate and controversy over the time length of the national anthem.
Yeah.
I found this out today, that because John Baptiste repeated a part of the national anthem 3 times, they're saying that despite the clock timer people were using, he went over the batting line. Some folks are saying he went under. It's weird, but
it's a wild universe to say the least. But
the reactions were something to see.
But according to ESPN, Nevada Sportsbooks won state record $22 million.
Well, they lost it on the over. They lost it on the over under.
Yeah.
Because it was under for like the entirety of the game until the Chiefs got those 2 garbage touchdowns in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, but this is, I mean, that's wild that they won that much.
The over-under was 60.5, and it finished at 62.
Well, we all projected this was going to be a lot closer than it was going to be.
We figured it would be, yeah.
And the moments of history that we were expecting, I mean, did not happen.
Because look at the game he had against Philly, this game, the last Super Bowl.
Yeah, there wasn't much of a game. It was pretty much.
Well, no,
it was a game, but it was out of hand.
It was a game, but it was a tale of two halves, because Kansas City went into halftime down, and everyone's like, "Oh, Philly's going to do it. Philly's going to do it." And then Kansas City came out the game, touchdown, field goal, and all of a sudden, boom, they're right back in it.
Yeah,
everyone, including myself, which is why I didn't manifest the whole, you know, I don't want to put the energy out there thing, you know, because I'm like, it's Kansas City, man.
Everybody's thinking that. I mean, that was something that we weren't ducking.
The clock ain't 0. You know, the fat lady ain't singing. Whatever, you know, analogy you want to use. I'm like, this game ain't over until I see triple zeros.
Well, the biggest thing was from this game, though, is they beat the narrative.
Yeah.
And the narrative was Kansas City in these kind of situations was going to dominate and take over. Philly showed a blueprint of how to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you're going to see a lot more teams pick this up, because what Philly did is they punched them right in the mouth. They played aggressive defense.
Yeah.
They did not allow Mahomes to get into a rhythm. In fact, if anything, they made him more panicked than anything.
Yeah, that's what I was saying to my mom, because she was like, did Kansas City forget to play? I'm like, well, kind of.
Well, and when you're punched like that, it definitely hurts. And I think that there was a lot of the pop culture audience. I know we're going to kind of cross over to what we usually say for the entertainment edition, but there was a lot more casual fans that were expecting Kansas City to run away with this and wrote Philly off. And and it's one thing I think we said entirely, like with how the playoffs were going, it's hard to go against Kansas City, even though we all rooted for Philly. But Philly threw everything out the window and got down to basics. So they spoiled a lot of moments, I guess.
Yeah.
But this is the beauty of the game, where you just have to go out there and play. And I think it was really refreshing to see for the first time in a couple weeks the game allowed to be the game.
Mm-hmm.
Just my opinion. You know what I'm referring to. Mm-hmm. But we still had that. We had a great halftime show.
Yeah.
Which
phenomenal halftime show.
If you're not into hip-hop, it probably wasn't your cup of tea, but that is okay, because
I will agree with folks on, at least on the halftime show, the audio mixing for the halftime show on the broadcast was not good.
Right.
If you go back and you watch the video on YouTube, or even they put out, I think this is the first time they did this, they put out the audio from the broadcast on streaming, so Spotify, Apple Music, whatever else, it sounds a lot better on there.
Yeah.
But I will agree with people that it was kind of hard to hear at certain points.
It was hard to hear, but it was also, for that big of an audience,
Yeah.
you either have to love hip-hop or you don't.
Yeah.
But like I say, in my opinion, there's only been a few universally loved halftime shows.
Mm-hmm.
So
You can probably one hand.
yeah. So you take it for what it is, but what you should be doing is saying goodbye to the season that was, and you should be looking forward to what is coming ahead. Because
next year it's in Levi's Stadium, the 49ers home.
yes,
And the NFL picked up on the whole, we figured out the script from the logo thing. Go check out the logo.
there's so many crazy conspiracy theories about that.
I mean, listen, there's something to it, I think.
I will say this: if you can decipher who's going to go from that picture
Good luck.
next season, good luck.
Place a bet.
I have a suspicion about it, but you're going to have to wait till our NFL preview to hear about that.
Yeah.
In the meantime, though, hit us up on the hashtag ODPH pod. What is your takeaways from Super Bowl 59? What did you love about it? What did you hate? How did the Chiefs do to you? How did the Eagles do? What about the halftime show? Let's talk about it. Pat and I both loved it. We listen to hip-hop, though, so we can definitely have that discussion about Kendrick's dominant win over Drake, to say the least.
Yeah.
And so much more. So definitely hit us up. Let us know. We're going to get a quick breakout, though. We'll be right back.
Do you like comic books?
What about movies and TV shows?
Well, we may be the show for you.
We're Hops Geek News, a weekly podcast that discusses comics, movies, and TV shows while featuring a beer of the week.
Every week we chat about what we messed up on the week before, and then we dive into what we're reading and watching, as well as some news.
We then wrap it up with a geek-themed topic of the week.
You can find us anywhere you listen to podcasts by searching Hops Geek News.
Cheers.
Coming back for another segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast, and we're just going to touch upon a couple storylines that are still lingering over from the Super Bowl. And Pad, you want to jump first?
Yeah, so this whole, and I kind of stayed silent about it last week because I'm like, let's let it play out, see how this goes. But there was a couple folks in sports media and some folks online that were saying, if Patrick Mahomes, did the three-peat, which again, technically happened with the Green Bay Packers. They did win one right before it became the Super Bowl, and then they won the first two Super Bowls. Technically a three-peat in the NFL, but it's not in the Super Bowl era, so hence why I said never been done in the Super Bowl era. But there was this talk that, if Patrick Mahomes becomes the first quarterback in Super Bowl history to three-peat, well, he's instantly better than Tom Brady. And your own personal rankings, if that were to be the case, okay, fine. My personal opinion, he wouldn't have been. But given the loss, as you alluded to in the last segment, at least for me and I think for a lot of folks outside of Kansas City, that debate's done and over with. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm not saying, he's a garbage quarterback. No, he is still one of, if not the best quarterbacks of this current generation. Overall, he's the best one. He's not the best one I've ever seen. That title is still reserved for Tom Brady. Tom Brady is still the best. Because the thing you got to bring up, in the two games Mahomes has lost, this most recent one to the Eagles, and then the one a couple years ago to the Bucs, lost by a combined 44 points, and was not very good in those two games. We brought up the stats and everything he had in the game this past Sunday, but you flash back to Super Bowl 45 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, where Patrick Mahomes went 26 of 49, 270 yards, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions, sacked 3 times. And then for fumbles, he fumbled once, so not exactly good. You look at the 3 Super Bowls Tom Brady lost, 2 between the Giants, 1 between the Eagles. Yes, folks, this is the first time in recorded history I think I'm acknowledging these losses because I don't like to.
Yeah.
But in those 3 losses, Tom Brady lost those by a combined 15 points. And in all but one, it's the Eagles game, he was ahead going into the fourth quarter. The first Giants Super Bowl in 42, that was the undefeated season, blah, 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 was up 7-3 going into the fourth quarter. And then there was, I'll argue, at least a holding call on that David Tyree, that David Tyree pass. I'll argue that till the day I die. But that's the other thing too with is, he was always in it. It was never a blowout, and it was, just the way it goes sometimes. David Tyree, and then Plaxico fucking Burris. Back of the end zone. I'll never forget it. Burned in the back of my brain. And then you go to the second Super Bowl against the Giants, 46, where Brady let me go back to 42. Brady, 29 of 48, 266 passing yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Then you go to the second one against the Giants, where he only lost that one by 4 points, and was up that game, before going into the fourth quarter lost it because of Mario fucking Manningham. Again, Never forget that one. But then with that one, Brady, 27 of 41, 276 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. So, okay, he's through 2 losses, and he's thrown 1 pick. Then you get to the one with the Eagles. Now, this is the only one he was behind going into the fourth quarter. It was 3 points. He was down 29-26 going into the fourth quarter. Listen to this fucking stat line, though. And this is the one I think a lot of people forget, that he put this up and still lost. 28 of 48, 505 yards passing. 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. He was only sacked once. And he had a rating of 115.4 in a loss.
Well, it all stems back to this. I think popular opinion wants to say X player or Y team is the next of the great legacies.
Sure.
And I think for what this has been is Kansas City is unfairly getting that anointment.
Oh, yeah. A little early, I would say.
It's very, very early.
I'm not saying Mahomes isn't a good quarterback.
Right.
Again, he's a very good quarterback. He's one of the best I've ever seen play. Can you have him in that conversation of one of the, best quarterbacks of all time? Sure. You can have that conversation and put him in there. Can you put the Chiefs in that conversation? Yeah. I mean, they won 3 Super Bowls in 4 years or 5 years or whatever it is. Yeah, you can put them in that conversation. Am I going to sit there and say they're the greatest team in NFL history? No. I mean, you talk to 100 different fans of the NFL, you're going to get probably like 9 or 10 different answers.
I think it's just a matter of we see that sensationalized too
sure.
much. And I think the point is with Mahomes is they have won. Yeah. Albeit very closely.
Sure. They do have a current streak going of 17, I think it is, consecutive wins in 1-score games.
Yeah.
So he's got that still going for him.
He still has that going. So when you are getting to the playoffs in that manner, I think that people want to try anointing them and putting them on a pedestal too soon. When realistically, they can be a good team. Yeah. They could be a great team at moments. Sure. But are they the greatest? Sure. And the answer clearly is not.
No. So that whole conversation has to end. And also, separate one, I don't want to hear any more of this Travis Kelce's better than Gronkowski.
Yeah, that's over.
You can argue statistics all you want. Yes, Kelce's got better statistics than Gronkowski, whatever. But when I just look at Gronkowski and the body of work and everything he had going for him, guys were literally going for his knees like it's the mafia and trying to knock him out. That every time he caught the ball, I'm speaking from experience, I was afraid he was going to get hit and get a broken leg. For every game he played after a certain number of years, because people started picking up on, hey, this is how we stop this guy. Go for the knees. And it pissed the hell out of him. Ask the Indianapolis Colts how that went. But this whole Kelce's better than Gronkowski stop. Gronkowski wouldn't have gotten shut down like Kelce did in the Super Bowl.
Well, it's the whole point, again, going to the NFL really drew in an audience when the Patriots were on the run. Love them or hate them.
Sure.
They were polarizing enough that they captured an audience and brought them in.
Sure.
And realistically speaking, the Chiefs are more or less a team that's on the rise, but they haven't really earned it in that aspect.
Sure.
I think a lot of their detractors are based off other elements that have nothing to do with the game.
Yeah.
Where Brady, Belichick, Gronk, etc., you really had a problem with how they beat you on the field. And they would just do it the Patriot way.
Yeah.
It is what it is there.
Oh, yeah.
Where I think a lot of it unfairly goes on Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it goes on thinking that
The outside stuff with Mahomes.
Yes, thank you. I was trying to find a good way about that. Yeah, it's just the outside factors that creep in. And granted, we've already discussed too another factor that didn't pop up during the Super Bowl. And maybe because there was more eyes on it, that it was a non-factor. Because let's face it, it's an elephant in the room in certain aspects. So when you have this, idea that the Chiefs should be there in that discussion with the Patriots, I will already say this. I think if you took those prime Patriot teams and put them against the Chiefs of last year, I'm not saying this year.
Sure.
Last year's Chiefs team, I think the Patriots would have won by 21.
I'll say this. Go look up the roster from the Super Bowl where the Patriots played the Seahawks, Super Bowl 49. That roster would punch. I'll even put them against the prime Chiefs years. That team would punch the prime Chiefs years in the fucking mouth.
Yeah, because
look up that if you're not familiar with the roster, which hey, you're not a Patriot fan, I totally understand. But go look up because that game was on NBC, so they did the fancy schmancy intros for the players on offense, defense, and they even included the special teams guys. Go look up that video of those player introductions. That they would smash them in the fucking mouth. And I'll say this, it'll be at least by 27 or 28.
Yeah. It's a scary situation when you put it in that perspective, but it's the truth, though. And I think for everybody that's anointing Mahomes and Kelsey because they're on TV a lot, they're doing commercials.
They're very good.
They're good at what they do in that aspect, but it doesn't mean that they should be earning those accolades this quickly because their body of work doesn't rank up.
Yeah.
Sure, you won 3 in a row, but have they been in dominant fashion? Has there been an aura that the Chiefs are going to win outright, like the Patriots used to carry with them?
Every Super Bowl and every playoff game Brady was in, there was never a point, unless it was Peyton Manning and like 2 minutes left, in which case I'm like, fuck, we're screwed. Outside of those, there was almost never a point where I sat there and went, fuck, it's over.
Yeah.
I was always in there like, you know what? Until the clock hits 0, we got Brady. There's still a chance. They're still in this. Any realistic or reasonable Kansas City Chiefs fan, if you can say that after this game, you're delusional.
Yeah, I agree with you.
It was over.
It was over, and Mahomes looked it too. And that's the big difference there as well.
Yeah.
Like, Mahomes can have all the regular season stats you want.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, show me what happens when you're faced with adversity as to this level.
Brady was down 28-3 in the third quarter, came back and was the largest comeback in playoff history.
As long as it wasn't the Giants, he was locked in.
Long as it wasn't anybody from the NFC East.
Yeah.
Every other division he did fairly well against.
Right. But I was going to say, that's the only time you really saw problems with him.
3 Super Bowl losses, all 3 to the NFC East. Believe me, I'm aware.
But in this aspect, though, that is something that has to be maintained. Is Brady would never have had a bad game like that.
No. Not that I can remember.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe early in his career,
sure.
But when you're talking playoffs, you're talking Super Bowl. Even in his losses, he still had great games.
Yeah, I mean, Christ, I read the one stat line against the Eagles in 52. 500 fucking passing yards and 3 touchdowns. And he lost. You read that to somebody who's at least familiar with football, but you don't tell them what the win or loss was, or who the teams were or what the game was. You ask an NFL fan, I got a quarterback who threw 505 passing yards and 3 touchdowns. How do you think the outcome was?
Yeah.
98% of them are going to say, they had to have won. And yet he lost.
It's a wild statistic to think about, but that's something that now we'll have to see about who's going to be the next dynasty, quote unquote, to step up. And I don't think you're going to see Kansas City get back there next year.
No, I don't think so either.
Not to say that
the blueprint is there for how to beat them as they're presently constructed.
Yeah.
And I don't think they're going to make enough changes, and I don't see them making some changes defensively or offensively to kind of throw a wrench into things and throw people off just because, hey, they're used to a lot of ways. So I'm not saying they'll never get back to another Super Bowl, but it'll be a couple of years.
Well, the competition level, like you touched upon, is going to be watching how Philadelphia did this.
Oh, yeah.
And you're going to see a lot of teams retooling. And I think that one kind of the segue into a new storyline for a little bit is Myles Garrett.
Yeah.
And I think now the valued defensive lineman from Cleveland has now publicly put out he wants to get traded.
He wants to get traded. Cooper Kupp's looking for a trade.
The Rams want to trade him. He didn't want to leave.
Yeah, that's right.
But I
feel like there was another one.
But
too.
I think Garrett leads that list about a player that when you see the scheme of how to beat Kansas City, you're going to see a lot of teams look at him. It just depends if Cleveland wants to take an asking price for it.
Look at what happened the year the Patriots went into the Super Bowl undefeated. And that entire season, no team could figure out how to beat them. The closest one that I can remember is the Monday night game against the Baltimore Ravens, where it was Jabbar Gaffney with a touchdown late to seal the deal and continue the perfect season. It wasn't until the Giants came in, with their defense that, hey, Spagnuolo, came up with and provided the blueprint for how to beat Brady.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of teams adapted that for when they would play, or at least their version of it, for the next couple of years. You're going to see a lot of the same stuff, when it comes to playing the Chiefs, the next couple of years. That, hey, this is what they did. Let's try to replicate it.
It's a copycat league.
Oh, absolutely.
It always has been,
absolutely.
always will be. So, like I say, I think the window is done, but if you can get a Myles Garrett there, and the scary thing is there's only a few teams that have the cap space to get him. Philadelphia is one.
Patriots are one.
Patriots are 1-2, but he wants to go to a team that's not ready to win now.
Yeah.
I think that's the only thing holding the Patriots back from really making a run for him.
Yeah.
But I would say if you're Buffalo, you have to kind of take a look at an all-in moment.
Top 10 teams with available cap space. Number 1, New England Patriots with $123 million. Number 2, the Las Vegas Raiders with just over $95 million. Washington Commanders are number 3 at a little over 80. Arizona Cardinals are number 4. And then you've got the LA Chargers at 5. Chicago Bears at number 6. Minnesota Vikings at 7. Detroit Lions at number 8. San Francisco 49ers at number 9. And the Tennessee Titans at number 10.
So out of that group right there, I think Detroit would be an ideal landing spot.
Minnesota. Depending on what they figure out to do with their whole quarterback situation.
Mm-hmm. I think Washington would probably be the best fit, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But it all depends on what he wants to do with his contract, too. If he wants to null and void, it depends on how much he wants to be on a winning team.
I can see if it's like Detroit, he'll rework it.
Well, I think he's going to have to rework it no matter what, but it also depends on what Cleveland wants to do because he is signed.
True.
Just because he wants to go doesn't mean he's going to go.
True.
And I think for how these teams are going to be looking at the upcoming free agency and tagging franchise players, that's going to play a big factor as well, because especially if you have a chance to go get a Garrett, you're going to have to really consider it. But what's the asking price? Are you ready? Are you ready to forfeit your entire draft?
Oh, he's a $19.7 million cap at this coming year. Oh,
right.
Jesus.
So to rework that, it would take a lot, but it's not to say it's out of the realm. But it just depends on what you can do with contracts and make that work. But you're also going to have to give up a king's ransom.
Yeah.
That I don't know how many teams are willing to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's some certain landing spots we'll have to keep an eye on for. Cooper Kupp, like you alluded to.
Yep.
I could see him going to a Cincinnati to replace.
What's the other one? Debo's the other one I was thinking of.
Debo Samuel has already got permission to ask for a trade.
Yep.
But it also depends on what he wants to do, because I know that's been heavily rumored for quite some time.
Yeah.
So who knows what's going to really transpire there.
Mm-hmm.
But I think out of the big ones, I think Myles Garrett is leading the list of the wait and see, and then the dominoes will fall after that.
Yeah.
Plus, we have to keep an eye on about caps, because Kansas City, like we alluded to, they're going to have problems. The Bills do not have that many big problems per se.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be a couple ones that I think fans are really going to want to watch, and I think ones you might see that you're going to scratch your head about a little bit might be DeMar Hamlin.
Yeah. Yeah, Buffalo currently $11 million and change over the cap.
Yeah, so
a couple other ones we've got to look at. Miami is and this is as of recording. So if you're listening to this in the future, it's not this, it's that. It's because it changed. But yeah, Buffalo's $11 million and change over the cap. So is Miami's $15 million and change over the cap. Here's the bad ones though, and I saw this last one this morning when they were talking about something on SportsCenter. Cleveland is second to last. They're $27.5 million over the cap, and you got the Saints. You're going to need an Excel spreadsheet to figure this one out. They're $51 million over the cap.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. So your finance department down there in New Orleans, good luck.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think I could just speak for the Bills. I think that Brandon Beane will make some magic happen.
Mm-hmm.
He usually does. He's just got to lock up a few players. And I could see Von Miller, unfortunately, not coming back.
Yeah.
Just with the cap casualty hit. So we will have to wait to see about that. But I think for a lot of these teams,
there is a potential out for Von Miller.
Oh,
I'm looking at his contract on Spotrac.com. It does say potential out 2025.
Yeah.
So he could leave after this year.
Well, he said he wants to stay, and I think they just need to rework the deal. Plus, they were also talking about getting him into the management side of things of the ownership group. So you could see a lot of different things happening in that aspect. But I think like between them, Miami, especially Tyreek Hill, we haven't really discussed that in a couple weeks. I think he's still as good as gone, just depending on where you want to send him. But
somewhere out in the NFC.
Oh, I could see him going Washington.
Yeah.
You pair him with Jalen Daniels. You have a speedster, and then with Scary Terry there still.
Yeah. I mean, listen, the only thing we for certain need one Aaron Rodgers to fulfill the prophecy and go to Minnesota.
Yep, that could happen as well. Because we heard the Jets are going to completely dismantle, which is
there's a lot of rumblings with that. Well, not just they're dismantling, but they've talked to Rodgers. They're going to mutually move on, and there was a list of reasons out of why that was, and blah blah blah. But listen, Aaron, fulfill the prophecy. Go to Minnesota.
Yeah, so we'll have to see about that. Like we say, there's a lot of storylines that are now starting to form, but they were going on during the playoffs, so we want to make sure we give them a little time as we move forward, because now, like we alluded to, the season begins again.
Mm-hmm.
So that being said, hit us up on that hashtag ODPHpod. What is your biggest storyline for the NFL now moving forward? Do you think that the GOAT conversation is done for Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs in general? Will we see another three-peat in the NFL anytime soon? And who will it be? Let's talk about it, shall we? But first, we're going to get a quick break. We'll be right back.
This is Tom from Tom Joe Lou,
This is Matt from Sideroom Sounds.
and you're listening to ODPH Podcast.
Wanna go where no one knows my name, to the desert, the oceans, or the plains. 'Cause I wanna go.
Coming back for the final segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast. Pad, what you got?
Got a couple things to talk about. First of which is obviously the local minute, and looking at the standings for the Federal Prospects Hockey League. That is, of course, the league where our local Binghamton Black Bears play in, and the Empire Division. Another week, Binghamton still in first place.
Let's ride.
37 games played. They have a record of 27 wins in regulation, 4 losses, 1 overtime loss, and then they've got 3 wins in overtime, and then they've got 2 shootout wins. They have 92 points. They're ahead of Danbury, who's in second place with 61 points. Ahead of Port Huron in third place with 57 points. Watertown's in fourth place with 56 points. Fraser coming up in fifth place with 37 points. Poughkeepsie in sixth with 27 points. And Danville in last place with, only 6 points.
Yeah.
So, yikes. Looking like they got things wrapped up pretty well for themselves. Looking at the schedule from this past week, they had just one game going on. That was back on Saturday. Was a home game against Poughkeepsie, where they won by the final score of 3-2. A couple games coming up this weekend. They got the first one on Friday, February 14th, Valentine's Day. Another home game against Poughkeepsie, the Poughkeepsie Venom. Then they're back home on Saturday, February 15th, at this time 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern, against the Poughkeepsie Venom. So a couple home games there. They're, like I said, they're home for a while. Their next road trip isn't until like the first week of March, so they definitely got some time the next couple weeks. If you have not gone down to the arena to check out the team, check them out, because, hey, they're on a bit of a roll right now. More tickets, information, all that good stuff, BinghamtonBlackBears.com. Then we got to talk a little bit of baseball, because, hey, football season's over. NHL and NBA season's still in full effect. You know, golf's getting ready to get going here soon. But listen, the sport that truly signals, love it or hate it, you love to see it at this point, because it means we're almost out of this cold winter months. You can almost put the shovels and rock salt away here if you're in all over the country this past winter.
Yeah.
Unlike previous winters. But spring training is here, because as of today, all MLB teams have reported to spring training, pitchers and catchers. The Cubs and Dodgers reported back on February 9th and 11th, respectively. They reported earlier because, March they're going over to Japan to play 2 regular season games over in the Tokyo Dome, because there's a couple players of Japanese descent on both baseball teams. There's some dude, Shohei Ohtani.
Who?
Yeah, Yoshinobu Yamamoto. I don't know if you ever heard of him. Roki Sasaki. Again, all 3 of these guys are on the Japanese national team. And not to be left off the list, the Cubs do have Shota Imanga. And as the manager of the Cubs said, he's like, I'm pretty sure I'll get fired if Imanga doesn't pitch in Japan. So odds are we could get a Shohei Ohtani or Yoshinobu Yamamoto duel between him and Shota, which honestly, as much as I hate the Dodgers, I wouldn't hate seeing that, because that'd be fun to see.
That'd be a great fun one.
That'd be fun to see. But yeah, the rest of the Major League Baseball teams have reported to their respective spring training facilities. So you got that going on. So that'll be exciting to see, much to the chagrin of my aunt, who lives down where the Mets train, and turns her 15-minute drive home from work into like a 45-minute drive home from work, because all of the Mets games get out right as she gets out of work. So she's thrilled. There is a little bit of baseball news, and it is surrounding the Dodgers, and no, it's not deferred money, at least not yet. And that is Clayton Kershaw, of course, the 3-time National League Cy Young Award winner, is re-signing with the Dodgers for an 18th season, according to ESPN's Alden Gonzalez. Deal pending a physical, so we don't know the details yet. Expected to become official by Wednesday. It is reportedly will guarantee Kershaw somewhere in the $5 million, $10 million range in 2025, according to ESPN. But we'll see how it ends up. But I think at this point, this gives the Dodgers like 95 players on their roster. How they're going to make that for the 25-man, I have no idea. But that's for them to figure out.
Yeah, like I say, him leaving the Dodgers, I just can't see happening.
Yeah, it's like when Joe Montana left the 49ers. Like, you never would have figured it would have happened, and it looked weird when you saw it. Kershaw out of Dodger blue just doesn't look right.
Definitely does not look right at all. So that said, we do got a couple quick things to go on. Obviously, the UFC was this past weekend.
That's true.
And Duplessis did what he did best. He took out
Sean
Strickland in very violent fashion.
Yeah.
To put it mildly.
Oh, if you haven't seen the photo, look it up.
No, like we say. So, I mean, this one...
Unanimous decision. Two judges scoring it 50-45. Third one, 49-46.
Yeah, and the rest of the card, I mean, I have to eat a little crow. Suarez decided to not fulfill the prophecy I planned. Because who won that women's strawweight bout?
Zhang Weili by unanimous decision. Two judges scoring the contest 49-46. Third one scoring at 49-45. And if I'm not mistaken, I thought I saw something. Suarez got her foot caught in the cage part of the fence part of the octagon.
Yeah, I heard something.
Which I guess has always been a possibility just because of the way it's constructed, but it's never actually happened before.
Yeah, but Zhang showed up. I mean, Zhang looked, real good from what I could see.
Yeah.
I was legit surprised how that was going to go because, like I said, I thought Suarez would have been a lock.
Yeah.
Now the question is about who everybody's going to be fighting next. I think for Duplessis, there's only one match they can make at that division. And honestly, I am shocked that it's only down to one, but it is true. And that's Chimaev.
Yeah.
There's no one else. I mean, I know that there was talks about the gentleman who just knocked out Adesanya.
Amanov. Imavov,
yeah. So that's a possibility, I guess.
Yeah.
But I think the big money fight that makes the most sense is Duplessis and Chimaev. Because you really have to see it. I mean, Duplessis is on a hell of a streak right now. You have to kind of give him that.
Yeah.
As for Strickland, I don't know. I really don't know.
Say.
Yeah, I mean, I could see him kind of transitioning into that, not going for the belt per se,
right.
but getting the big money fights. So I would be very curious to see about who he has to face next in that division.
It's not like he's on a long losing streak. It's his first loss.
No, by no means. I'm not saying he's done. But I think when you're hovering around the title picture for so long there, I mean, winning the belt, losing the belt, and then trying to get back.
Yeah,
it's tough to get back up there, especially if that division is getting better. So it just depends.
Yeah,
but like I say, I don't really have a yes or no who should be next there. And then, I mean, obviously for Zhang, I mean, I know there was some talk about her and Shevchenko. I could see that. But honestly, I don't know. I really don't know at this stage. Because, I mean, it does make a lot of sense to do that fight. But at the same time, I don't know if necessarily it makes sense for me.
Let's see. So looking at UFC.com/rankings, and of course, Zhang Weili is the women's strawweight champion. As we currently record, because it looks like the rankings have been updated, Yan Xiaonan is the number one ranked fighter in the women's strawweight division, supplanting Tatiana Suarez, who was number one. She's now number two. After that, you got Verna Jandiroba at number 3, Jessica Andrade at number 4, Amanda Lemos at number 5, Mackenzie Dern at number 6, Eastman Lucindo at number 7, Amanda Ribas at number 8, Marina Rodriguez at number 9, and Tabitha Ricci at number 10.
I'd go Verna. I think that makes more sense for me.
Yeah.
Because I know when you have Shevchenko, and obviously I think that you'd have to see Zhang go up to 125 to fight this.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's tough because, I mean, Shevchenko is so dominant at that weight class.
Right.
that I don't necessarily know if that makes the most sense to try doing champion versus champion. But I know there's talk. There's been talk for a while about that.
Because I just looked it up. Yan Xiaonan, who, of course, again, #1 ranked fighter in the women's strawweight division, does have a fight schedule coming up. UFC 314 taking place in April in Miami. She has got a bout going up against Verna Jandiroba, who is, of course, the #3 ranked.
Oh, okay.
No, so you got #1 going up against #3.
Oh, then I stand corrected on that. I did not realize that fight was taking place. So, yeah, I think maybe winner of that would make sense.
That would make the most sense.
I'd be okay with that.
Yeah.
I'd be okay with that. But like I say, to kind of have champion versus champion, I've heard that talk for a while now. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I'm not really like screaming to see that.
Oh, I looked at the main event of that card. Flyweight championship, Pantoja versus Kai Kara France.
That'll be a fun one.
Oh, take my money.
That'll be a real
Take
fun
my
one.
money. Gilbert Burns and Michael Morales. Oh,
Yeah, UFC is putting together some very
Dominic Reyes and Nikita Krylov.
Yeah, they're putting together some nice stacked cards.
Jim Miller's still going. Hey, how about that?
Jim Miller is going until he can't physically do it anymore. God bless him.
He's going the Donald Cerrone route.
God bless him. Like seriously,
Anywhere, anytime.
He's the last of a fight style that I don't think we've ever seen really step up in these day and ages. I'm sorry, like I'm just gonna put it out there.
Jesus Christ, 57 professional matches. His first professional match, November 19th, 2005. Folks, I was a sophomore in high school.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Like I said, he's no joke. He's no joke. Like I say,
that's incredible.
When they used to scrap, you talk about the fighters that used to scrap. Jim Miller's in that conversation with Donald Cerrone.
I'll say, yeah, just go to his Wikipedia page and look at the mixed martial arts record. Just go through the list of folks he's fought and see how many names you recognize.
Yeah, it's a who's who.
Takanori Gomi, Diego Sanchez, Chiesa, Cerrone is in there as well. Pettis, Poirier, Thiago Alves, good. Oliveira, Clay Guida, good Lord.
Oh yeah, no, I mean during that time period, he was in that top echelon.
Yeah.
So, like I say, whenever he feels like hanging him up, I mean, he's going to be in the Hall of Fame first ballot. There's no question on my mind. I know that there is a fight night coming up.
This coming up this Saturday.
Yeah, I was going
February
to say,
15th.
they're 11 weeks straight, I believe they got
Yeah.
cards.
So this one coming out of the Apex in Las Vegas, Nevada. Main event of this card, middleweight fight, Jared Cannonier versus Gregory Rodriguez.
So that should be a fun one. I do like Cannonier a lot, so I'm going to take him in this one.
Co-main is a featherweight matchup between Calvin Kattar and Youssef Zalal.
That'll be fun.
Yeah.
That'll be a fun one.
That one I think could be sleeper. Like, not a lot of people are expecting it.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. I'll go Kattar just by default, but like I say, I could see that one going either way. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, UFC is starting to crank on there, kind of tied up in bins. I know we didn't really do a deep dive about the card, but I think overall this past weekend's UFC card was very solid.
No, yeah.
But I think the mains really...
Plus, we didn't want to risk getting together for it because, well, Super Bowl was the next day, so we were going to be up late for that, we knew. And plus, the Northeast was facing down a snowstorm that turned out to be a bit of a wet fart.
Yeah, it's been a busy schedule here for the ODPH team. Let's just put it mildly.
They were for those not in the Northeast, they were calling for like upwards of like 9 inches of snow. We ended up getting like 3 or 4.
Yeah. But but we adapt, we pivot, we give you stories, we give you a parlay of topics each and every week. And we're going to finish out talking a little pro wrestling. I know Pat has a late-minute press release from WWE.
I do. So coming to us from the fine folks at WWE, and this is for immediate release, Roadblock set for Tuesday, March 11th at the theater at Madison Square Garden in New York City.
Oh, let's go.
Tickets on sale Friday, February 14th at 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. Exclusive presale access begins Wednesday, February 12th at 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. WWE, part of TKO Holdings, today announced Roadblock will take place Tuesday, March 11th at the theater at Madison Square Garden in New York City. The special episode of NXT will air on the CW starting at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Tickets will go on sale Friday, February 14th. That's all the stuff I mentioned via Ticketmaster and close quote.
Exciting to see that NXT at the Garden.
Now, is that the same, because I've only been to the Garden admittedly once, is that the same spot we were in for the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. panel for New York Comic Con the one year?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, that was a Hulu theater.
Oh, that's right. Hulu
No, this is gonna be.
Okay.
This is gonna be.
Okay.
It'll be a little larger production.
Okay.
To put it mildly.
All right.
But speaking of wrestling, we do have to talk very briefly about AEW releases.
Oh yeah.
To sum it up quickly, and we will be doing a deeper dive, obviously, this weekend on Wrestling Night Live, 8 p.m. Thursday night on Nerd Initiative YouTube. But, Pat, just to get your quick takes, because I know it's WWE guys.
Yeah.
Miro has been, we're speculating that he's been released from AEW. There's been multiple reports.
Yeah, he's not on the roster page anymore. I'm not surprised. Now, admittedly, I don't watch AEW, but I am on the IWC. I am on Reddit. I am on Twitter and Blue Sky and Threads. So I do peruse. I do see what goes on over there. And I know for a while, Rusev had a bit of a run right around the time he first showed up and then for a little while after. But then various reasons and various things happened. It kind of fell off the wheels a little bit and never really seemed to recover. So not entirely surprised. I don't know if we'll necessarily see him back over in WWE, at least not right now. I could see him doing, maybe a TNA, maybe a New Japan run, maybe just stick to the indies, we'll see. But WWE return right now? Probably not.
I don't see him coming. I think if they're going to take anybody that was released, the other ones that we should say are presumed release.
Right.
Because there hasn't been any official press releases that we have come across our way. But people do have our emails. We know Ricky Stark's name has been taken off of the roster page on the AEW website.
I mean, that wouldn't surprise me if he shows up in WWE.
Well, I think he's a lock.
He's not the best lock. He's the second best lock.
Because I think the first one is Aleister Black.
Yep. I figured Aleister Black wanted to come back as soon as Malachi Black on AEW wanted to come back as soon as his wife, Zelina Vega, re-signed with the company. And I figured it for him, it was just a matter of when, not if. So him coming back, listen, wife is on SmackDown, start paying attention on Friday nights because they like to keep the couples together these days. So, we'll see what happens, but not a surprise there either. Again, much in the same way of Miro when he first got over and for a while had a very good run, but then just kind of seemed to get lost in the pack there for a while.
It definitely did. I mean, that's one thing with a very inflated roster. That there's only so much screen time for everybody. So, but I think that all three gentlemen that have been alluded to being departed from the company are going to do very well, whatever they try doing. I think Miro will take his chances. Probably, if I have to guess, I think I don't see him back at WWE right away. I see him maybe doing the indies.
I think
maybe going into like the Hollywood route per se and doing some stuff there. I could see him really doing that. I think Ricky Starks is probably an absolute lock, pun intended. It's just a matter of where, because I could see him.
If it were like 2 weeks ago, I would have said there's a lock, but we're past the Royal Rumble.
Yeah, I was gonna say Royal Rumble would have been great. I could see possibly Night After Mania.
I was just thinking the same thing.
I could definitely see Elimination Chamber. Like there's a lot of different ways they could go with it, especially NXT, because I think he's going to go there first,
probably
for a quick hiccup, and then I think Aleister Black, who will be taking that name back.
Start paying attention Fridays.
Yeah, I think he's been waiting to come back ever since Triple H was put back in power.
Well, and especially when his wife was released, contract expired, whatever it was. She wasn't fired. But whatever, I forget what it was the last time his wife, Zelina Vega, happened with her. They were both kind of in limbo. And then she ended up back on re-signed with WWE around the same time he signed with AEW.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, maybe that was intentional. Maybe that was just a miscommunication or wires got crossed there. But I figured ever since she rejoined WWE, I'm like, well, it's only a matter of time before he comes back over.
Well, I think he's been really waiting to buy his time there and kind of see how things are going to play out. And I think with Triple H running creative, I think it's more appealing to some of the wrestling talent that was with him in NXT.
Especially Aleister Black.
Yeah, to come over.
Especially since I know some of the older Black and Gold NXT episodes are getting uploaded onto YouTube. Go back and watch some of those matches where he's in some of those episodes where he's Aleister Black in the Triple H regime at NXT. Leaps and bounds better than when he was on the main roster.
Yeah. I could definitely see him and Karrion Kross at Mania.
Ooh.
If the bells all ring at the same time.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for that. But otherwise, it's been kind of a very calm week in pro wrestling. A lot of storylines building, and we'll definitely be recapping them next week here on the ODPH. And if you even want more wrestling talk, Wrestling Night Live every Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Nerd Initiative YouTube. That being said, that's it for sports this week. So for the one and only Padawan J,
fuck the Astros.
I'm your host, Ken M. Thank you as always for listening to the ODPH podcast. We'll see you next time.
It's such waste of time, swiping left and swiping right on people you could know. 'Cause anyone who's worth a damn be worth way more than a picture could ever show. You could find the right light, find the right angle, and never find your soul. And it can feel like a losing battle, and this plot is full of holes. This modern way of finding love just makes me feel so alone. And I can't be the only one sick of staring at my phone. So look up, talk to me, a better way to spend our energy. Just look up, talk to me. We don't have to float alone on the open sea. Don't know that I believe in the old time fable. Everyone has just one true love. All I know is you're across this table, and you're all I'm thinking of. So look up, talk to me, a better way to spend our energy. Just look up, talk to me. We don't have to float alone on the open sea. Ooh, talk to me. It's such waste of time, swiping left and swiping right on people you could know.